Joining me in studio, a guy who has not had his hat ripped off, Congressman Jodey Arrington. Hey, Congressman, how are you?
I grew up where if you ever knocked a man's hat off, you better be ready to tangle.
Yeah, see, this is
in West Texas and D.C. They also honk their horns a lot. I grew up in a small town where if you honked your horn at somebody, you better be ready to pull over somewhere. I mean, it better be. You better have a pregnant woman in the back that needs to deliver her baby at the hospital
that's
or
acceptable.
something.
Yeah, that's acceptable. How crazy is it in D.C. right now with the with protests and people who have lost? It seems all kinds of decency and common sense getting in people's faces, getting to elected officials' faces. It's got to be nuts.
Well, it's for the party of supposedly tolerance and civility. They have not led by example. We actually have. We have constructively produced legislative reforms that have put this 115th Congress at an all-time high in terms of bipartisan legislation. Think about that. 20-year high, 10 Congresses. So when the media is saying that Donald Trump's creating chaos and there's all this hyper-partisanship, 20-year high in bipartisan solutions to deliver on our promises to our veterans, to improve infrastructure, to do things to find solutions to and cures to cancer and other diseases. There 75% of the legislation that passed in this Congress has been Republican Democrats working together because we have led Republicans by example. And you'll never hear that at the national level through the mainstream media. And yeah, the obstruction, the resistance, the angst, the lack of civil order, the mob rule mentality is at a fever pitch. Yeah. And I will tell you that it is working against them. This is why we have to just stay true to our principles and our West Texas values of being strong on the issues, fighting for our principles, but being decent and being respectful and being loving in all that we do, just like that bracelet, What Would Jesus Do? I think that's how you change the culture of Washington. In the face of this great struggle for the heart and soul of our country in the midterm election, now is when we put our best foot forward in how we present and what we say. And yeah, let's let the opposition, let's let them
lose their minds
and show the true colors of what they believe. Because when you're squeezed, that's when you know what somebody's made of, when you're squeezed. And look, there's a great squeeze in our country right now because there's a battle for whether we're going to keep the majority and keep the progress as we believe progress is made in this country and conserve our principles, Constitution, values, rule of law, etc. When you're squeezed, then you know what the substance of that person is or that party is. And I think we're doing exactly what we need to do. The president is doing what he needs to do, and we're watching the frenzy on the other side. And the stats already show, if you look at the generic ballot, we're already seeing a big swing back to our favor. We're seeing fundraising up, people coming to double down on making sure we keep the majority because this is not what America's about. So,
well, before we get into some of the issues and before we take our first break, what is the overall mood right now for House Republicans? What is the buzz? Is it, again, you got history working against Republicans right now. You've got, I tend to think it's bad for Democrats, but you do have anger. You do have Democrats who are fired up. I think you have Republicans who are fired up. So you have a couple of things there that are going to be interesting moments going into the midterms. What's kind of the buzz right now? What's kind of the feeling among House Republicans?
I think the feeling is, and we just had a call that we had most of the Republican conference joining, and that it's swinging into our favor, and that we are up against the headwinds of history. We lose, the majority always loses 32 seats on average. We only have 23-seat majority, but the economy is doing great. And when we focus on the results that we've achieved and the promises we've delivered, whether it's strengthening the military or this great surge in economic growth or veterans or whatever it is, Supreme Court, constitutional conservatives on Supreme Court and shifting the balance of power there, then we're winning. And so they want to distract. They want something out there like they did with this sort of parent and child separation at the border. They want something so desperately to distract people from what we've accomplished and the fact that life is better, that our country is safer, that our economy is stronger, and so it's working. And that's why I say we've got to just stay the course and let folks that are going to act a fool, because when they did that and really destroyed some fundamental beliefs and ideals of due process, fair trial, presumption of innocence, man, people recognize that as dangerous to this country, dangerous. Yeah. And that's why you're seeing independents start to fall over on our side. I like our chances. It's still going to be a battle to the end. Everybody's got to get out and do their part.
What happens if the Democrats take back the House? What's it going to look like in D.C.?
It will be the investigation ad nauseum on steroids. What we've seen, nothing constructive come out of this Russia. There's been no collusion. They've spent millions of dollars, but it's going to be impeachment, resistance, investigation. And for people in this country, even the middle group that people are all fighting for in the general election, they are so sick of the do-nothing, broken, gridlock culture of Washington. And they see a president and a unified Republican Congress that has led and delivered. So, yeah, but that will come to a grinding halt. And this president, if you thought the Kavanaugh hearings were disappointing and disastrous, wait until you watch the new House under Nancy Pelosi and what they will do. Not to mention, they'll work to repeal taxes. Now, we'll probably stave all that off in the Senate because we'll do better in the Senate. But they want to repeal taxes. They want to prop up Obamacare. They want socialism. They want these things that are really un-American, like when they shut the government down on account of illegal immigrants. Yeah. That's un-American. Yeah. So, again, let's keep talking to our constituents directly. When our guys are out there talking directly to the constituents, we're winning. Because we'll never get our message through the mainstream media. It's just not going to happen. I mean, Fox News maybe, but nobody's going to get that message out. Yeah. And so it's on us to go out and do it.
We'll take the break. When we come back, much more with Congressman Jodey Arrington here in studio. We'll talk about the Farm Bill. We've got possibility of military being sent to the border. Who knows? We'll talk about it all when we come back. Chad Hasty Show. All right, Chad Hasty Show, News Talk, KFYO. Congressman Jodey Arrington in studio with us for one more segment. And Congressman, obviously you're here in the district. You're seeing that rain that's falling. That would be great just about any other time of year. Not great right now.
No, it's too much too late. But we can't hardly complain when it rains out here, except for when it has the prospect of hurting the quality of our cotton, which is king in West Texas. The Farm Bill is, it's just like one thing after another that these farmers are taking blow after blow. I mean, the commodity prices drop. Their income is cut in half since the last Farm Bill. We had the cotton stripped out in 2014. Trade inequities continue to persist. Tariff sort of fallout from the tariffs, although the president is doing everything he can to help with that disaster relief sort of trade aid package. We got to get the Farm Bill through. Democrats are playing politics with it. They want to see if their hand or leverage improves after the midterms. And that's unfortunate because these guys they're suffering. I mean, they really are. I was just in Dimmitt, Castro County, and to say times are tough is an understatement. Thank God, and this was our top priority for our district, we got cotton back in the Farm Bill. So it's going to be covered, permanently fixed for both the seed and the lint. But we got to get the Farm Bill through because that's what's going to provide the funding to support it.
When does that? Has it expired?
It has. Okay. 2014 has been extended, so we have some runway there. It's not ideal. We've talked a lot about what's in the House. Most of it's held up on the food stamp reform, the work requirements for able-bodied adults. Guys, we're talking 20 hours. We're talking 20 hours of work, training, or volunteering. If we can't do that, Chad, man, we're further lost than I thought.
We're not even looking at work. Well, I mean, it's not work. It's not, it's almost, too nice to call it, work requirements, because it's go get some training or go serve food at a soup kitchen or, volunteer. This should not be hard.
And zero. And when we talk about traditional American values or West Texas values, work ethic and what the dignity of work and what we value as a work ethic in this country has played into the prosperity and played into the fact that we're the strongest country on the face of the planet in the history of the world. And we're losing that. And generations are being trapped in this cycle of dependence. It's a psychological thing, and it's anything but compassionate. But hey, look, the Democrats, not one vote. And I want people to understand that as they go into this election, not one vote. Because of that 20-hour, like you said, work, volunteer, train component of the Farm Bill. But there are other things. Here's one really radical notion that's coming out of Debbie Stabenow, Democrat senator from Michigan. She wants to muck around with Title I, which is the safety net, the core component of the Farm Bill that we have for production agriculture, the commodities that would feed and clothe the American people, independent of foreign countries. She wants to include rooftop and window gardening. It's hard, isn't it, not to just bust out in laughter, except that it's just...
Well, the window gardeners are having a very tough time right now. You know that.
My goodness, if we can feed the world from our window gardening, then I might take it more seriously. But what she's going to cut into are the drought, the counties that have been devastated by drought for multiple years that would have given us an update in yields, and that would have been hugely advantageous to cotton farmers in West Texas. It's that money to support the devastation over the years that she wants to use for rooftop gardening. Mike Conaway.
So she's not looking for any extra money. She's wanting to cut into the existing.
Exactly.
I don't even. How would you even do that? Because everyone would be able to start a garden, right? And in theory,
a chicken in every pot, a car in every driveway, free education, free health care for all. And, oh, by the way, the government needs to help you with your rooftop or window gardening, because that is part of the core responsibility.
We need to start a garden on top of the roof here.
Yeah. Who knows what we're going to subsidize next? But, yeah, that's what we're up against. I just don't know how this would be a tough election given the very skinny agenda and mainly just anger and resistance that we've gotten from the Democrats, but it is what it is.
Yeah. In the time that we have left, I also want to ask you about the new NAFTA. It's been rebranded the USMC agreement, I believe, or USMCA. What are your thoughts overall on what we're seeing on NAFTA 2.0 or whatever we're going to call it? Is it good for Texas, good for West Texas, or is there some bad news?
It's very good for Texas. It's even better for the rest of the country. We really had a do no harm approach. Because it's so important to agriculture, Mexico especially, improvements to food safety, improvements to labor and environmental standards in the sense that we're holding Mexico and others accountable to the same standards we have, so that we're not at a disadvantage. And if you're a Midwestern wheat farmer or dairy farmer, you got new access to the Canadian markets, and it's not we open our doors and they put barriers up to the tune of 200% tariffs. So better access, more equity. President Trump did again what he said he would do and improve and strengthen NAFTA and make it a fair, better deal for our consumers, for our workers, for our manufacturers, and for our economy. God bless America, and thank God for Donald Trump.
Are you hearing any worry about the tariffs that have been out there? It has impacted some sectors, including automobile and construction. Any worry out there for you?
There's always a little worry because tariffs are like a tax, and that cost is going to be passed to consumers. But I think the president, if you give him enough runway, he's just trying to hit reset with China. Yeah. No other politician has held him accountable, and he's doing everything to smooth out the rough patches for agriculture. So I'm supporting him. We need to stick with it. There's no free trade without fair trade, so we got to keep the pressure on the Chinese. The best way to do that, by the way, open more markets in the Asia-Pacific region.
Yeah. Congressman, as always, appreciate your time.
Good to be with you, Chad.